Well, thanks. Thanks for the introduction. I think that was about 90% what I wanted to say tomorrow at your introduction, so I guess I'll have to think of something else. Previously, I would have crossed the street not to walk near you, I think. And it's very nice to see how recovery has changed me into seeing beyond just superficially what's on the surface, and just make therefore we have a very good friendship, and thanks for introducing me. So my name is Dirk, I'm an addict. Hey. I feel very blessed to be here, also a tad bit nervous, but that's okay. I've asked God to be with me here today, and I know my story because I lived it, so it's not really that hard to tell it. In short, life was shit, then CA came, and now life is very, very good. I work in an elementary school now, which I never thought was even possible for me, that people would trust me with their kids, first and second grade, so really young kids, and no kid has been injured during the making of last year, so that was really nice. And I just have a blast, and life in recovery is literally beyond my wildest dreams. So I'm going to share a little bit about that, and I hope you see what I mean. I was born into quite a loving family. No real issues. Mom, dad, older brother, younger sister, and we got along very well actually. When I was, I think about 12. Okay. Did I say something to trigger it, or? I'm so sorry, iPhone. No, but when I was about 12 years old, I think the marriage between my parents went south quite rapidly, and then they divorced. But for a divorce, I think it always sucks. It's always very negative. But ours was, my parents' divorce wasn't really messy. So even in that perspective, I really had no reason to use, or so I thought. The reason for me to use was actually that I was not content. I was very irritable and very restless from a very young age. I know that I never wanted to be at the place where I was at the time. If I was at a birthday party of a friend of mine, I wanted it to be over, and when it was over, I wanted to be back at the birthday party again. When I was back home, I was anxious to go to school because I loved going to school. When I was at school, I didn't want to partake in any of the assignments. So then I wanted to be home again. When I was home, I wanted to make music. When I was making music, I wanted to act on stage. And which I think in hindsight is quite funny that I love acting so much, because even not on stage, I did nothing else. So that was from a very young age, but it wasn't really problematic at the start. School went fine. There were no real problems until I was, I think, 14. It was right around the time of my parents' divorce, and then school became so hard that I actually had to do some homework. I didn't do it, so. That was actually the first time, I think, in my life that someone I wanted to do didn't succeed in it. That was, I think, the first time that I had a real setback, and I had to do third class again, and it was really a blow to my ego, because prior to that I have a lot of recognition in Bill's story, because in the beginning of Bill's story, he says things like, I was going to show the world, and I was, in other words, he's saying that he was amazing, and he would go, he would make something of himself. And for me, that was also what I believed. But of course, I had to do something for it. I had to work for it. But that was something that I didn't do. I didn't work for it. So that was kind of a blow to my ego, because I thought I'm going to make it, and I didn't. So I had to do. I said third class. I had to do the fourth class again, fourth year, but really, who's counting? And then when I was 15, I discovered a very good way not to be in the place where I was, but to get lost in my own fantasies. And that was substance abuse. In the beginning, it didn't feel like abuse at all. It was great fun. I went out I went to bars, I think once or twice a month. I drank so much that I don't remember coming home. But on all the other days of the month, which was like 29 days of the rest of the month, I didn't drink at all. So there was really not an issue. My brother, who was a few years older, he went to bars 2-3 times a week, and of those 2 or 3 times, he came home once wasted, and the other 2, he knew how to get home. He didn't fall with his bike. He didn't trip and fall down the stairs. Everything was normal, and for me, it was quite the other way around. When I drank, there was no limit to how much I drank, besides passing out or besides throwing up. It took a few years for me to realize that was a real problem. I don't know how to handle myself when it comes to mind-altering substances. But at the time, I thought I had it under control because it was only once or twice a month. So, what's the real problem? I also around that time got my first girlfriend, first relationship. We were together like 3 years, I think, and it was really typical for that relationship, and also the few relationships that followed, that there was a really unhealthy balance between her and me. I was kind of like the savior, really codependent behavior from my part. And I think what I liked about that was that I didn't have to worry about my own problems at the time, because I could just be there for her and do things that she asked me to do, and she told me that I was great, and I felt awesome. And but it took, I think, about 1.5 years for me to realize how toxic that relationship was, because it was really unbalanced. But I never in my life learned how to take responsibility for my own actions, and I never learned how to end things when things are sucky. I just carried on, and someone around me, someone in the near vicinity, decided this is enough, and decided for me that I had to change things. Decided for me that maybe gymnasium isn't for me. Maybe HAVO is also fine. That wasn't my choice, but it was a choice made for me. For me, that was quite convenient, because then I could be angry at those people, angry at my teachers, angry at my parents. My mom, who always said, I know you have it in you, so why don't you do it? Which she said motivatingly, but I felt like I was letting her down, because she thought that I could do it, and I clearly can't. So that was also quite a blow for my ego, which drinking usually solved. The relationship got worse and worse and worse, and at the age of 19, I think, I was 19, I found something way better than drinking, because drinking always fixed the problem for that day, always fixed the problem for this evening, and usually in the next day we would kiss and make up, and things would be great again, but only for a short while, until we went clubbing again, and then same old. But at the age of 19, I hadn't even finished the HAVO yet, but I thought Eindhoven is not for me, I have to go to another city. The sentence, I don't know really where it is, but we had to change everything in order to fix the problem but ourselves. That really came into my life when I was 19. So I went to another city. I went to Den Bosch. And this was such a good move on my part. I felt that I didn't have to abuse substances anymore for at least a couple of months. I had it under control. When I started drinking, I could stop whenever I wanted to. I first encountered drugs, and that was also great, but I immediately had rules for myself. I can only do this 4 times a year, and I really thought that this was a healthy thing to do because it restricted me to only taking drugs 4 times a year. It took me to get into recovery to see how how really messed up that really was, because I don't think that people who are not truly addicted have to make these rules for themselves. They can just decide not to take drugs, and I had to make rules for myself. But when I moved towns, my substance abuse lessened, and everything was quite alright. I had another job. My girlfriend and I broke up. I wanted to say I broke up, but that takes taking responsibility, which I couldn't. So we broke up, which basically means I was being a dick to her for long enough. So we decided we'd grown apart. And then quite rapidly I made new friends. I had a new girlfriend. We moved in like 4 months after, I think. And everything was still very, very nice, and I thought this is the life I can live. Until about a year later, I think, I realized I still didn't have my diploma. I still wasn't making anything of myself. I still wasn't making anything of my life. I just had fixed some problems for some time, but that time ran out. So I tried a different study. So I went to study for this, and then I went studying for that. And in the meantime, I changed jobs a couple of times. And now I can see that there really is a pattern here. The pattern being that I try something for about 2 years, the same girlfriend, same job, same study, the same couple of friends, the same drug of choice, the same music genre of festivals which I attended to, and then after a couple of years, hello, how are you?
Success, man.
Yeah, thanks. I gotta love my sponsor. Okay, but thanks for throwing me off. No, I always tried it for a couple of years, and then after a couple of years I decided that this girl wasn't the girl for me, this house wasn't the house for me, this job sucks, my boss is a dick, my friends are assholes, and I have to try again. I worked at KPN for a while, and there's something we usually say to customers which are having problems with the Wi-Fi: have you tried unplugging the router, waiting 10 seconds and plugging it back in, so everything resets, go back to factory settings? That was basically what I was doing to my life. I didn't, if your Wi-Fi sucks, there are usually some apparatus in the room which sends a signal which disturbs the Wi-Fi. If you don't treat that problem, you can just unplug it and plug it back in again, and it'll work for a short while, but sooner or later it'll turn to shit. That was the same with my life. I didn't face any of the problems that I needed to face because I didn't want them to face, or most of the time I just didn't see the real problem. Luckily there was one redeeming factor at working with KPN, because I met someone, which is Martijn. And he would turn out to play an important role later in recovery. By the way, Martijn is a bit ashamed that I'm the only addict who he has seen in active addiction, and he didn't know it. I'm sorry, I just had to mention it. He's right there in the back. No, but besides that, working at KPN sucked, so I changed jobs again. And then I met I think the right way to say it is my most recent ex. So not my current girlfriend, but the previous one. Because all the other girlfriends, they just went along in my show. They went along with me being a dick for a couple of months and then deciding to separate, basically. And that girl, she didn't go along with that. And she just said, no, it's not that we're growing apart, you're being a dick. And that was real messy for me, because that meant I actually had to step up, and I had to I had to face the consequences of my actions. So obviously I didn't, and obviously I started drinking like my life depended on it, which I think in a way felt like my life depended on it. I think I am very grateful for her acting that way, because if she just gone along with my show, I'm not really sure if I'd been here today. I can't really imagine what it was like for her, because I know my life sucked at the time, but I was drunk most of the time, so I didn't really experience any of it. But she was sober most of the time, and she experienced living with a drunk, living with an addict in active addiction. So I can't imagine what it was like for her, but still, we had a relationship for 5 years and a bit. So I think things were shit for at least 3 years, and things escalated to a point that I knew I had to ask for help. So I went to a certain addiction specialized clinic in the south of the Netherlands. I met with a counselor for once a week or once every 2 weeks, and I made a plan. Okay, who am I gonna call if I have a thirst for drinking, or if I want to use? Who am I gonna call? Which it didn't really work, because I didn't really want to quit. I think that's also in the big book. I only wanted to quit for a short while, because I thought that once I were abstinent for a short period of time, we thought our system was cleaned out and we could get the old high again using half as much. Well, that wasn't true. So things went from bad to worse, and eventually I broke up with her, which I don't remember. I don't recall doing that. I thought she broke up with me. I drowned myself in self-pity and in cheap wine, and it took a year for me to do the step 9 with her, and then she told me that I was really, really drunk when I broke up with her. So in hindsight, that was actually one of the first times I actually faced my actions and took some responsibility. But the good part around this is that recovery was right around the corner. It just had to, I just had to have a little push. The push was us breaking up. In the 5 years, of course, it wasn't always misery. We have had very, very good times, and we have very much the same interests and the same hobbies. So I was heartbroken, also with self-pity, but also I think with genuine heartache. And I just went on a spree. And then one day I cut off communications to my family. I had no friends anymore. My brother was father for the second time, and he didn't invite me to see his newborn son because he didn't trust me, which in hindsight I can hardly blame him. My job was not going well. I was on a temporary contract, and I think they won't extend it after it ended. But then luckily I decided with my drunk ass that when I ran out of booze at around 6 in the evening, that I couldn't go to the supermarket across from the street because I was there earlier that day, and pride prohibited that, forbade me for going to the same supermarket twice a day. So I had to go to another supermarket. which was like a 15-minute walk, which God knew I wasn't going to walk, so I took the car. And then I drove into another car, into an oncoming car. God was with me that day because there were no injuries. That has nothing to do with my driving skills. That has absolutely everything to do with luck and with God, I think. But then my addiction was so severe. I was so sick that I couldn't own what I did. I got out of the car. The driver of the other car smelled alcohol on my breath, and he said, "Are you drunk?" And afterwards, I spoke to him later, and afterwards he said, "If you had said yes, then I would have been very angry, shouted a few nasty words, but then we just fill out the insurance papers and all would be fine." But I said, no, I'm not drunk. And he said, "Oh, you're lying." And I said, "No, I'm not lying." I just couldn't own up to it. I couldn't own the fact that I was drinking and driving at the same time, because I think people who drink and drive are idiots. I still do. I always have thought that, but I couldn't come over the fact that I was an idiot this time. So he called the police, and rightfully so. So there, in one big crash, actually, I lost my car. I lost my driver's license, and with that, I also lost my job, because at the time I was a courier. So I lost everything except my house, and I thought, I just don't know what to do now. I'm totally lost. I thought I was going to die an alcoholic death. That was what I thought. That was what I believed. So after walking out of the police station, I phoned my parents and I said, "I just don't know what to do. I have no fucking clue. I don't know how to get out of this situation." And my mom said, "Okay, I'm going to pick you up tomorrow. You're going to stay at my place for a couple of days, and we're going to figure something out." Now I can see that moment was, I think it's called a gift of desperation. I was so desperate that I was ready to take on any suggestions. I was ready to listen to anyone who had something to say, anyone that was not drunk, because I just did not know how not to be drunk or under the influence of drugs. I just didn't know how to do that. I knew how to do it for a couple of days, but then I was sober and life was way shittier than drunk, so I started drinking again. The next day, my mom picked me up, and in the car, I don't remember any of the conversation we had, but I do remember her saying, "Dirk, I'm not really sure what you're going to do in the next week, besides staying at my place and taking care of the insurance for the other car, but I know that you're going to call an AA meeting." I'm sorry to be calling out another fellowship, but it is the Mother Fellowship, so I think it's all right. But she said, you're going to go to a meeting, and that's final. And I figured, well, I have literally nothing else to lose besides the roof over my head, and I will lose that because I have no job anymore. So sooner or later, I'm going to be homeless. I have to go to that meeting. And that was a very, very, very special place for me to be. I still get emotional thinking about it. I called. I didn't know you could just show up at a meeting, so I called. Can I come? And there was this guy who said, "Yeah, of course you can come. The meeting starts at 7. Will you be there at 6:30?" I was like, "Yeah, sure. Why not? Is there an intake procedure? I don't know." I hadn't really thought of the A being anonymous, but okay. But I just went there, 6:30, and this elderly chap came walking up to me, and he said, "You don't look too good." I said, "No." And he said, "Do you see that?" I really want to tell the story, but what's a drempel in English? Nee, a drempel bij de deur. Threshold, yeah. Do you see that threshold over there? And I said, "Yeah." He said, "That's the last one you'll ever have to take in your life." I said, "Wow. What do you mean?" I really didn't understand him. Was I going to live in the meeting room? I honestly didn't understand what he was saying. "Okay, what do you mean?" He said, "Because coming here is probably the bravest thing you ever did, and probably the bravest thing you ever will do. Because you admitted total defeat." And I said, "Yeah. I literally have not much more to lose, so..." And then at the first meeting, they gave me something that was priceless, and they gave me hope. It's not for nothing that we say hope, faith, and courage. They gave me hope because the people that came in were clean, shaven. Women were wearing makeup, maybe the men too, but I don't know. But everyone looked all right, everyone looked decent, everyone looked like they were going to go and grab a coffee with their parents. Most of them came by car. Some of them told how they went on a holiday with their kids together, how they had a birthday party with the entire family just last week. And I thought, that is amazing, because they also told what life was like before coming up to their first meeting. And that was my story. That was just 9 people telling my story, only the details were different. So then I thought, maybe, just maybe, these people have a solution for my problem. The problem for me, I thought, still was drinking. But at that meeting, I think 1 or 2 weeks later, some of the meeting goers said to me, "Why do you go to a rehab?" I said, "No, rehab is for junkies." She said, okay. Dirk, you just described the junkie earlier. In another conversation, I described the junkie being homeless, smelly, having half-full cans of beer lying around, no connection to anyone. And she said, "Well, you told us that you cannot walk home and not open the first carton of wine that's in your bag. You have no relationship anymore, you don't have a job, you don't have a car, and quite frankly, you could use a shower tonight. The only thing that separates you from the junkie you described is the roof over your head, and you're gonna lose that as well." And I figured, this woman has a point. And so I went to the clinic. And I think the best part about doing that is realizing that what I want to do is most of the time not what's best for me. The suggestion of my mom to go to a meeting had brought me there. I didn't want to go there, but I was there and I met those people, which were amazing, and they really helped me out in the month before going to rehab. I didn't stay sober for that month, but I was able to stay a couple of days sober, which was amazing, which was something that I hadn't been able to do in over a year. And before that, it was also very incidentally that I managed to do that. And in the rehabilitation clinic, my counselor was a woman who, as part of the first conversation we had, she told a bit of her story. And man, was she worse off than me. But she was there, working in the clinic, and she had been sober for 12 or 13 years, I think. And she had made something of her life, also had a job, also had a car. It was just amazing what she told me. And then I thought, well, not to be disrespectful, but if you can do it, then I think I can do it as well. And she said, okay, that's great. What about a safe house? Not going back to Brabant, but go to Amsterdam to a safe house. And I was like, yeah, I am willing to go to some lengths, but any lengths? Really, me? I'm from Eindhoven, go to Amsterdam? Not sure. And she said, okay, well, go back home then and enjoy your wine. And that really took me by surprise. She said, you have 24 hours to think of one good reason not to go to the safe house. One good reason, and then I won't make the call. Can we make that agreement? I said, sure, we can make that agreement. And for 24 hours, I thought long and hard. And the next day, I knocked on the counselor's room, and she opened the door, and I said, there's one reason, and I hope it's good enough. And she said, what's the reason? I said, I just really don't want to go. And she said, yeah, I'm going to make the call now. And there I learned that if I don't want to do anything for no particular reason, it's probably best if I do it. When I came out of the clinic, I before going to rehab, I had contact with Martijn, and he said, call me when you get out. And I didn't want to do it, so I did it. And we got to working the steps, and I didn't really want to do it. I remember I had to give up my apartment in Den Bosch because I couldn't afford it anymore. But the literally last thing before clearing out my apartment I did there was reading the big book. And man, did I want to run away. Man, did I did not want to read. I think we read all first 5 chapters, which was pretty long, or I mean a lot, but I didn't want to do it, but I did it. And later in the safe house in Amsterdam, people told me, go and do service at a meeting. And I thought, no, I don't want to do it. So I did it. And now, most of the time, that is something that just keeps coming back. If I don't want to do anything, the best step 10s and 11s I write at night are the ones that I don't want to do. Because I know if I don't want to do it, there's probably something under my skin, something that'll get me annoyed over the next couple of days. A few minutes before this meeting, I prayed for the first time in the bathroom. Because I thought, praying in the bathroom? Why would I do that? I know my story. My story is all right. But I'm so much calmer now than minutes before going to the bathroom. So if I don't want to do anything, it's probably the best thing to do it. Working the steps has done so incredibly much for me. It really is amazing what my life is like today. A year ago, I was asking myself, what is my higher power? What does it look like? Is it a he or a she? Is it an it? How do I communicate with it? I wanted to know everything. I love science. I love physics. I love knowing how stuff works. So I thought, let's go to church and talk to a vicar. And I had a long and hard talk with the vicar, and there I think I, for the first time, really understood what it means, what a power greater than me means, greater than myself means. Because I wanted to have answers, and having the talk with her made me realize that if God really is a power greater than myself, then I am by definition not capable of understanding it completely. Because if I would understand it completely, it wouldn't be greater than myself. It would be comprehensible in my mind, but it is not. And that was such a shift in my recovery, I think. I don't have to know how anything works anymore. I just have to know that it works. I don't have to understand why doing step 9s makes the steps 9 makes the promises come true. But I know that they do. They do come true if I work my program, if I work my steps. If I take my program seriously, then amazing things will happen. Just earlier this week, I read, I think it's Appendix B, about the spiritual awakening, the spiritual experience. And the last part about that is honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. I, from time to time, when people ask me to do something or people suggest something, I still use the same principles to that as in rehabilitation clinic. When my first response is, "Nah, I don't want to do that," I think, shit. I think I'm gonna have to do that somewhere in the near future, and it's just miraculous. I had the luxury because I was in sick leave, and UWV paid me for a while. But UWV obviously wanted me to go back to work again, so they hired a coach who's also in the program, not incidentally, of course. And there I was just on a broad research of my mind, of myself. What do I want to do with my life? And there came out I want to work on an elementary school. I thought, okay, my brother, with whom the relationship was already way better than before. I'd already seen my nephew a couple of times. Hi. I thought, why not ask him for help? And within, because it's his area of expertise, and within 30 minutes, I had an interview. He called me back. I have an interview for you next week, and in a primary school just around the corner from you. When I am at work / school, if I find something scary, the first thing I do is I ask God to help me. God's answer is mostly simple, namely ask other people's help as well. If I find something difficult, ask someone's expertise, someone who knows what they're doing. The teacher in the classroom next door is a teacher for about 15 years. So if I am having trouble with something, why not just knock on the door and she comes and helps? And I'm just having so much fun with trying new things. Trying new things was always something that I dreaded. It was never something that I wanted to do. But trying new things now makes me grow. Because nothing grows within the comfort zone. In the comfort zone, it's all a bit smelly, and I'm wearing pants for the same 3 days, and I'm ordering pizza just day after day. And I like pizza, but not that much. And I'm watching just Netflix over and over and over. And when I don't know what to watch, I go and watch the same James Bond movie I've seen 10 times already, but I just watch it again. And it's all right, but nothing new is happening from that. And when I just think of nothing grows within the comfort zone, then I think I have to go out. I have to do new things. And well, the most important thing to that is calling my sponsor, listening to what he has to say, working the steps. I finished the 12 steps a year ago. Then I started over again because I'm still not healed. I am recovering, and I am recovered from the mental obsession to use, but there's still a lot of work to do. So why not start over? It's not that it's not that the alternative is any better, because the alternative, I think, I sometimes try it when I'm ill. I had corona half a year ago, and I was really feeling sorry for myself, because I can do that quite good, feeling sorry for myself. And I thought, well, now I'm ill, and now I don't have to do anything because I can go to meetings, and I just ignored online meetings, which I attend to on a not so regular basis anymore, but I used to attend on a regular basis. But no, because I don't go out, and I don't see anyone, so there's really no need. I thought there's no need to work the program in this 5 days that I am in quarantine. 3.5 days later, I was so annoyed of everything. My girlfriend, who's very loving and very caring, and whenever she called, I just thought, no, I'm not gonna answer my phone. So it only took 3.5 days for me to become a total dick again. And that was after completing the first round of steps. And then I realized I have to start over. I just have to do it again, because otherwise life as I know it will end. And that for me, I think, is a certainty. If I don't work my steps, I will drink again. And if I will drink again, I will die. Maybe not on the first drink, but I don't know when, but it is gonna happen unless I work my program. And I think I'm just gonna leave it at that, because I'm so very grateful to be here. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope we speak each other in this weekend a lot. Thanks.